and hope you're all doing very well. We have a few questions. I have one, which is quite a broad question from a devotee in Mexico, but Chinmoy Prabhu also had a list, which we haven't, and I don't have so much to say, you know, I cannot, so I'll give my answers to that first, you know, just my simple understanding, and then we can go on to the other question, unless anyone present has a burning question that always takes precedence over everything else. But let's see, I'm just looking for Chinmoy Prabhu's note. So you had a question about Buddhi yoga, and there was something else too.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are just topics if for some day, you know, day in the future, if you want, if we have nothing to talk about. But if other people have something, they have a specific question, I think that should take precedence.
Okay. Well, I mean, I may as well cover these. I don't have, it's not like I can give a 2-hour talk on these topics. I'm not so scholarly, but we may as well cover them. Let's see, Echo has a
question. You shouldn't have said that out loud.
Oh, was that? No, but you put it in the chat to everyone.
Oh,
you know what? Echo,
I'm sorry.
You know, Echo, you can send a private message just to me. Sometimes people do that. They'll send me a private question. But you put it, yeah. You have to ask someone to show you, but you've put it in the chat to everyone.
I didn't know if it was an appropriate or inappropriate question.
Oh,
so I thought it was going just to you. Sorry.
There are no inappropriate questions in my book. As long as they're sincere, and you are sincere. So.
I was going to say it's very sincere.
Okay, well, I know that. That's a given. So what is the, okay, well, we'll cover Echo's question since it's the immediate topic here. What is the difference between God, the essence, versus Krishna? Well, I don't actually, first you have to explain your question. What do you mean by God, the essence?
I mean, like, Om. Like that essence that's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. It's just there. Nothing exists without it. It's in everything, of everything, except like that essence. I don't know how to explain it. That life. I don't want to say that life essence because it's different than the soul essence. It's different. So I would assume I would use I would say it's like Om, but I don't know.
Well, it sounds to me like you're referring to what in the Vedic language we normally refer to as the Brahman aspect, or Brahma. And that is one aspect of Krishna. So the Vedas, they describe 3 different aspects of the absolute, you know, of the supreme entity. You know, he appears in 3 different phases, one way you can say it. And so those 3 are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And so Brahman refers to an impersonal aspect of the Lord, an all-encompassing energy, consciousness, and it is as you describe, you know, it is an aspect of the Lord that persons can feel, you know, in a hazy, abstract way, you know, and you know, many have the aspiration of merging into that, you know, this, you know, great consciousness, absolute supreme energy, consciousness, light. And that is possible, and in fact, the Vedas, they speak extensively of this feature of the Lord. And generally the Vedas, they're pointing towards this Brahman aspect of divinity, because it's much easier for persons to associate with the idea of God, because we live in a world of complexity, and sophistication, complexity, variety, and it's also a world of mortality. It's a temporary and mortal world. So there's a tendency to associate these two things, to associate form, variety, movement, dynamics with temporality, with mortality, Buddhism is very popular because it's a very simple idea, that we live in this world of, complexity and trouble and suffering and temporality. So let's just enter this void, let's just aspire for peace. Let's just aspire for extinction. That seems like it's like a natural reaction to suffering, the complexities of this world. So the idea of this, simple, state of oneness, that's a natural reaction to our experience in this world. So it's easy for persons to conceive of divinity in that aspect. Form tends to be associated with what is finite, what is limited, because that's our experience of this finite world. We are finite beings. We live in a finite world, and it's a world of form. It's a limited world of form. So the idea of God as being formless, the infinite being formless, it's a very easy idea. It follows on very easily. And then another point about this concept of divinity is that, our tendency in this world is to make ourselves the center. And so to conceive of God or divinity as something kind of hazy and abstract and remote, that's more natural and that's more comfortable, God, something very far away, very remote, abstract, we don't quite know, but our lives here and now, they are the center, they are everything, that also comes, that idea, that feeling comes naturally. So for many different reasons, this concept of divinity, this expression of divinity, it's very widespread, and it's more easily digestible than the idea of God appearing in form, in a specific form. The idea that as we have material movement, color, variety, complexity, so there may also be spiritual variety, color, movement, etc. That's another jump, that's more difficult for many persons to digest. But anyhow, to more directly answer your question, this Brahman aspect, it is an aspect of Krishna. It's an undeveloped expression. So there's this Brahman aspect, and then there's also Paramatma. And so Brahman is very, very big. The definition of Brahman or Brahma is bigger than the biggest and always becoming bigger. whereas Paramatma is smaller than the smallest. Paramatma is a very tiny expression of the Lord. And that expression, the Paramatma, literally Paramatma means, Atma is soul, and,
Yes.
and Padam means supreme. So Paramatma means the supreme soul. Or like Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada in his books, he generally translates as super soul, right?
Yes.
And so that Paramatma, he's very, very tiny, and he's a little more developed than the Brahman expression because he has form. He has a beautiful, beautiful Vishnu form. And it is said that he resides within every atom and within the heart of every individual living entity, and is sustaining, maintaining every individual entity, and also witnessing and supporting the dispensation of karmic reactions for the individual souls. Now that Paramatma feature is actually a temporary feature, in the sense that once the soul, that the Paramatma, we can also think of him as something like what's the word? Like a police officer, or there's another word that I want. But he's like kind of like a guard for the conditioned souls, the souls who are imprisoned in the material world. But the liberated souls, Paramatma doesn't have any role to play there. So he's kind of like a prison officer in a sense, like a warden, and he's overseeing the souls who are living in the relativity of the material world. But once the soul is liberated, Paramatma doesn't have any duty there, So in that sense, he is a temporary manifestation. And then Bhagavan is the most complete and original form of divinity. And that refers to the personality of Godhead. And literally, Bhagavan means who is the possessor of opulence, the possessor of potency, of qualities, which also indicates that he has his Shakti, the female, counterpart. And that also, makes for more complete expression. And so within that Bhagavan category, there are actually an unlimited number of manifestations. We know the Vishnu forms, and we know Vishnu avatars. There's Ramachandra, and then so amongst this category, Krishna, he is the most complete. There are many forms of Bhagavan, but Krishna, he is the most original and the most complete. So all other manifestations of Bhagavan, as well as the Brahman feature, as well as the Paramatma feature, they come from Krishna. Adir Govinda. He is the cause of all causes, and he has no source himself, and he is the source of all. That is how Krishna is referred to described in the Brahma Samhita. So one way in which you could distinguish between these two forms, Brahman and Bhagavan, is that Bhagavan has rasa, and the Brahman feature of divinity does not have rasa.
I don't remember what rasa is.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
Sorry.
I'll explain that. And so rasa is kind of like, Vaishnava theologians. This is how they determine the gradation within divinity. It comes down to this fundamental point: rasa, how much rasa is available. And rasa refers to ecstatic nature, ecstatic quality. It's a difficult word really to translate into English. We could also say the taste, or juice is one way it's translated sometimes. And really it refers to the taste, the ecstasy, the fulfillment that we seek. By nature, we are all rasa seekers. There's a particular sensation, particular type of joy that we seek in everything that we do, and there are particular types of enjoyment, pleasure, ecstasy that we get in the foods that we eat, in our daily activities and our hobbies and the different relationships that we have. There are different types of rasa. There's a particular rasa, particular taste, with your mother, your father, your siblings, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, friends, co-workers, grandmother, grandfather. There's a particular rasa, particular taste, particular type of joy, ecstasy that you get in all of these different relationships and experiences, particular foods, bitter, sweet, sour, pungent. There's particular taste that you're getting in all of these things. Climbing a mountain, watching the sunset, swimming in the ocean. There's particular rasa that you seek in all of these activities. So what is so special about Krishna is that he is the most complete in that department. In the department of rasa, he is the most complete. Where is that coming from? What's going on? Everyone's on mute except for me. I don't know what happened there. Well, I don't know if you all heard that, but I just had some funny music playing. Maybe something on YouTube opened, or I don't know. Anyway, that's also one kind of rasa. So Krishna, he is the most complete in the department of rasa. And so one way in which he is described by Srila Rupa Goswami, Akila Rasamrita Murti, means that he is the embodiment of all kinds of rasa. Every single type of sensation, ecstasy, joy, fulfillment that we can conceive and beyond what we can conceive is all available in connection with Krishna. Every type of relationship is available in connection with Krishna. So this also explains why, Krishna appears as a boy, with parents, with lovers, because that allows for a greater spectrum of relationships. Logically, it doesn't make sense that the Supreme Godhead will have a mother or a father, right? He is the supreme source of all. So how can he have parents, right? Logically, rationally, it doesn't make sense. But why is the play set up like that? Why does Krishna pose in this way? Because that allows for this particular exchange of rasa, this particular ecstatic relationship. That is the reason why. There isn't a logical reason, but this is a plane of reality that goes beyond logic. This is the plane of love, mercy. This is beyond law, justice, reason. This is there's a higher purpose here. It is the plane of play. It is the world of play. And so for that reason, Krishna poses in what otherwise, position which otherwise would not make sense. So in the Brahman expression, there's zero rasa. There's no rasa there. There's no qualities, there's no ecstasy, There's no Shakti, no divine potency. So this is, this is one way in which you could distinguish between Brahman and Krishna. But to go to exactly what you wrote there in the chat, see, for us, God and Krishna, these are not mutually exclusive terms. Krishna is God. The Vedas are describing a very developed explanation of the nature of divinity. So God appears in different forms and different phases, and Krishna is his most complete. Krishna is the most complete and original expression of God. As Swami Maharaj Prabhupada liked to say, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he liked to use that word Godhead because it indicates a plurality within divinity. Not that there is, okay, yes, there is one God, and in that sense, we are monotheists, right? We believe in one God. And Gurudev mentioned actually that he appreciated that about Christianity and Islam, that they also follow that belief, But it's also a little more complicated than that, There's Krishna we can conceive of expressions of divinity appearing in a gradation, and Krishna is the supreme most. So, and no one is comparable to him. And so in that sense, we believe in one God. But Krishna also has other roles that he plays, and, other less developed forms of Bhagavan, the personal feature, and then also Paramatma and Brahman. They all have different roles to play within the totality of reality. Does that make sense, Echo, or did I make that too complicated? Echo, can you hear? Was that clear? You're nodding your head. Okay, good. Anyone want to add anything to that, Chinmoy Prabhu?
It's very good, Didi. It's a very good explanation.
Okay.
I thought it was good. Sorry, I just found the unmute button.
Okay, good.
I appreciated it because it is what I think. I just don't have the words for everything. So I had a discussion with Asha Purna, 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
And I love talking to her. So, yeah, so I wanted clarification because I think I use the terms interchangeably, because to me, I would say in my perception or my head, it's the same. And I understand the clarifications that you made between the three, and that helped also from from things I've heard and being in India for so long. So I appreciated it very much.
Okay. And yes, you can use the terms interchangeably. No, that's fine. Yeah. And even sometimes or often in the scriptures, the terms are used interchangeably. Sometimes Brahman means Krishna. Sometimes Vishnu means Krishna. Sometimes Krishna is referred to as Paramatma, as Atma, the supreme soul. There's some broadness here, and you have to understand according to the context, what's being said.
Yes.
So that's totally fine.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Oh,
follow-up on that?
Yes, please, Matthew.
So my question is about the Paramatma. And when we are engaged in sadhana and chanting and meditating on the form and pastimes of Krishna, I take it that that is really directed at Bhagavan, Krishna. What is the role of Paramatma in terms of spiritual practice, or what is the role of Paramatma in the life of someone who is pursuing the bhakti path? Does it play a role? Is there a distinction in that sense between Krishna, Bhagavan, and Paramatma?
I mean, for those on the bhakti path, there's not so much focus on Paramatma. There isn't actually any focus on Paramatma. Paramatma is acting in the background, and for the most, sorry, I have a lot of things jumping at once that want to come out of my mouth. Let me backtrack a little bit. What we've heard is that what we've understood from our Guru Dev is that generally the yogis, they are focused on those who are following yoga's paths, like Ashtanga yoga. They focus on that Paramatma feature, and they aspire through their austerities, meditation, to get some glimpse of that Paramatma feature, and they can, and they do, no doubt. Otherwise, for those, Paramatma in a general sense is, broadly speaking, he is acting in the background. He's for the most part in a neutral kind of mood, and acting as a witness. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj has also said there is some slight suggestion that he is making. There's a very subtle push that he is giving. He doesn't interfere. For the most part, he doesn't interfere with the free will of the individual souls. But there is some very slight, very subtle suggestion, is the word that Srila Sridhar Maharaj used. And I would think, not only I think, but our Gurudev also made some comment like that for souls who are more awakened, then the Paramatma feature is giving a little more encouragement. Like there was one devotee, our Gurudev commented, "Oh, Paramatma is very active." He made some, through his inner insight, observing that person, he made some comment like that. Paramatma is activated, something like that, So he gave some indication that for souls who are more awakened, developed, then Paramatma is giving a little more of a push towards the side of devotion, more insight. But for those who are practicing bhakti, we understand Paramatma is there in the background acting, and we honor that expression of the Lord, but there isn't any focus on that. No. Actually, our one comment, I was surprised to hear this actually. In one tape of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, someone was asking some questions about Paramatma, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was saying, Paramatma is not so important for us, and he said the Sad Guru, the pure bona fide Guru, is actually on a higher position than Paramatma. That was what he said, because though the guru in the line of pure devotion is giving specific and very developed instruction, in connection with Bhagavan, the highest expression of divinity. So that Sad Guru is more important position. He is a representative of Bhagavan Krishna, Mahaprabhu. So, our emphasis is, our focus is there, those in the line of Krishna conception. And I don't remember if it was in this meeting or maybe it was in another meeting last week. But somebody mentioned another comment of our Gurudev, that somebody presented him once, our Gurudev Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, someone presented him once with some prasad of Lord Nrsimhadev, right? Nrsimhadev is Vishnu avatar. And our Gurudev, he accepted that, but then he commented, he said, so we are taking this because we are afraid of Nrsimhadev. Nrsimhadev, he's a very fearsome figure. We don't want to upset him, so we are taking. And then he added, but Guru Maharaj, he would not take. And then he said, Nrsimhadev is afraid of Guru Maharaj. That was his comment, and we will very carefully hear these things, but we can think a little bit, who are our gurus? They are servitors of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, who is the highest expression of the absolute, and they are beloved servitors of Shri Krishna, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so all other conceptions of divinity, I don't want to finish the sentence, but everyone can draw their own conclusions from that. But so yeah, simply put, we don't, we honor the Paramatma feature, but there's no emphasis, no focus on that. Many things that we hear about and we develop our understanding of, it's kind of like they help us to understand how the system is running, like the law, like for example, the laws of karma, the laws of karma, they're not of so much importance for the practitioners of bhakti devotion, right? We're not, many followers of the Vedic religions, they put a lot of emphasis, a lot of importance on karma, and they work around the laws of karma, or they use the laws of karma to their benefit. But for the practitioners of bhakti, understanding that is just something in the background. It's helping us understand, like how the plumbing is working, but it's not that we're using that knowledge, but it's helping us to understand how the system's working, how things are running, but they don't play so much importance in terms of application, or our practical practicing lives. So yes, our focus is on Guru, Vaishnav, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, like that. And because that is complete, that is another way we can think of it, that within Krishna, all avatars, all other phases of the absolute, they're all contained within, within Krishna is contained Brahma, Paramatma, everything, they're all contained within him. So that is another way to think about it.
When in your response, when you talked about Guru as being a representative of Krishna, I understand that there's a Guru within. I think it's referred to as Chaitya Guru. Is that then distinct from the Paramatma?
Yeah, you see, now things get more complicated. You see, one issue here is that Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he chose to keep things very simple. And so he, as I recall, he tends to use these terms synonymously. So Chaitya Guru, yes, Chaitya Guru refers to the Guru within. And he, in his translations, in particular, I'm thinking of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he translates, Chaitya Guru as Paramatma, or he describes them as being one and the same. However, that's not exactly the case, and that was something that confused me for a while, because I'd heard my Guru Dev and Srila Sridhar Maharaj discussing something of the nature of the Chaitya Guru and Paramatma, and the two just didn't seem to add up. And so I asked one of my friends who knows Bengali, and he looked in the original commentaries of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, because Swami Maharaj Prabhupada's purports, they're drawn largely from those purports of his guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Saraswati Thakur makes it it's very clear, that these are two distinct entities. But Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, I can understand, he just didn't want to confuse the issue too much. And so he simplified things and he describes these as being the same. But no, these are separate. And as I understand, the Chaitya Guru, just like Guru in this, just like the other type of Guru is called Mahant Guru. And so Chaitya Guru within, Mahant Guru without. And so as the Mahant Guru can be manifest through different beings, so also the voice of the Chaitya Guru may come from different sources. That's what I have understood. It may be, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says in one place, it may be our own spiritual conscience. That may be the voice of the Chaitya, our own spiritual conscience. Having heard from so many higher sources, we've developed our own inner conscience, understanding, intuition, and that may be the Chaitya Guru. Nityananda Prabhu, I've heard our Guru Dev mention once in one talk, pray to Nityananda Prabhu and he will inspire you as the Chaitya Guru within. He made a comment like that, So may be different sources, but the main point is that it's in inner voice, inner intuition that is within. So yeah, it does get a little complicated. Perhaps Paramatma may act. It may be that in some cases the Paramatma does act as the Chaitya Guru. That does seem possible. Yeah, that may be so in some cases, but not always, not exclusively, not only. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes great sense. Thank you. There are these concepts I have, and I'm trying to sort them out in my mind. So that was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm so glad. Yeah. Yeah, the more, the more that we understand in Krishna consciousness, the more we see how extremely developed, and sophisticated this, knowledge is. I have one friend who calls sometimes, and he's like a newcomer, and he always has lots of questions, and he studied a lot. He went through like transcendental meditation and Shankaracharya school, and he studied the Vedic teachings a lot, and he told me that this is what convinces him. This is one of the main things that convinces him so much about the Vedas, and also more specifically the teachings of Krishna consciousness, is that it like he said, that you can't just make this stuff up. It's so complex, it's so sophisticated, so detailed. Like this isn't something that someone just made up, just came out of somebody's head. It's so intricate. There are many points, which are very, very fine. So we're privileged. We hear like, we're hearing about the real nature of reality, how the system's really running. And of course, ultimately, that's not our goal. Ultimately, our goal is to develop our hearts, but it is still helpful and encouraging to our faith, to have some understanding of these surrounding concepts. So, well, we have quite a few more who have joined us. I guess the Tuesday slot works better. So we have Bhagavan Prabhu is also joined in with us, and Krishna Mohini Didi in Spain is also here. Very happy to see you, Didi Dandavat. And who else has joined us? We have Jayadev who's also joined us. Vijayananda is also here. Dandavat, and Ajay Prabhu, Dandavat in London. Great to see you, Prabhu. And we have Pradeep Sigaban, who I believe is in South Africa. Very nice to see you with us, Prabhu. And Sevarupa Didi in South Africa is here. And Ananga Krishna Prabhu has also joined us from Tijuana. Well, very, very nice to be here with all of you. Does anyone have any follow-up questions or comments to what we've just discussed, or any other topic? Well, I did want to cover, somebody wrote in, this came from Mexico. I mean, it's kind of like a very broad questions. So this is I won't say the name. I'm not sure if they wanted to remain anonymous, but they've just gone to serve full time at one of our temples in Mexico. So they're experiencing temple life for the first time. And the first question is, how can we know what is our right place in service? And second, how can we face the mind and the ego? So I feel like those questions kind of just cover everything. So, well, I'll give a nutshell answer maybe to those questions. So the first one, how can we know what is our right place in service? I mean, for the most part, we try as much as possible to serve under guidance of the. I mean, it's difficult really to give a proper answer because it's so broad. Probably I need to get more detail here, but I'll give a general answer. I mean, the general answer and the main thing is, serving under the guidance of a higher Vaishnava. Service must be descending. We do not want to impose. We do not want to impose our own will upon the higher plane, but we want to be used. We want to be imposed upon by the higher will. We want to become instruments of that higher will. So, the main point here in our service life is, we are trying to become more aware of that and act according to that. What is the higher will? We are eager to try to understand that. And there are many points. There are unlimited points which can be discussed in connection with this. But one major point in this topic is that we want to do bhakti. We don't want to do karma. And that means that we're not always, and this also I think addresses a little bit the second question. That means that we're not just looking at results. We are, what our real goal is a transformation of consciousness, and for our heart to be aligned with the will of the higher plane. And so that's something very important for ourselves in our individual practicing lives, and also in connection with our relationships with other Vaishnavas. It's very important to remember. And if we can remember that, it will also save us a lot of, confrontation, conflict. If we remember that it's not just about, that service life is not just about achieving particular results, or particular numbers or whatever, but we are trying to develop our consciousness. So for example, the teachings of humility, tolerance, and respect, trinada pisu nichena, these have been emphasized so much, very key, very central to our practicing life. So let's say we're in a situation where we know that we can achieve a particular result, that we know how to do something better than somebody else, or we know what's right and what the other devotees are doing is wrong. Let's say we're in a situation like that. However, if the devotees involved are not receptive to hearing from us, then what do? Do we force ourselves on the situation and assert our own position, our own superiority, or do we try to harmonize and adjust with the feelings of the others involved? Do we see this as an opportunity for us to demonstrate our superiority, or do we see this as an opportunity for us to practice humility, tolerance, and respect? No. And I would go with the latter. So that's, and ultimately, and that's what it's actually about. That's what the game's really about. So the winning, whether we win or lose, it's more on that side. How much has our consciousness developed, stretched in these transactions that we're having with others? That's more of a crucial factor. So that's something to remember, that service life is not just about doing this or doing that, getting this, getting that, being this, being that, but it's about, learning how to exchange lovingly with others, like another example, say our service is serving out prasadam, we can have it in our head, I have this much prasadam, this many devotees, I have this much time, the desired goal here is to serve out this much prasadam to this many devotees in this amount of time, and then you can just go and do that, you could get it all done, but what was the mood in which you did it? Did you did you speak with affection? Did you just plop it on everybody's plate? Or did you look them in the eye and inquire specifically, is this what you want? How much do you want? Where shall I put it? How are you feeling today? Actually, there was one incident. We mentioned this a few months ago, I think in this meeting, when it was on an airplane, when our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, she was very happy because the flight attendants, they, as I recall, they kneeled down and they looked the passengers in the eye, and when like checking, like, are you happy with, is this what you want, and how much do you want, like in this very personal way, they were serving out, and connecting with the passengers, and our Gurudev, he commented that this was the Vrindavan mood. He said, this is the Vrindavan mood, and he said we can learn from them. So that's what the real goal is. This inner transformation of consciousness and heart. So that is one point to remember. And then going back to what I was saying about serving under guidance and higher direction, that may not always be practical, and we can, it can also get a little silly if we're asking our senior for guidance on every little thing. We do have to work some things out for ourselves, and we shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. We have to use common sense and be practical also. It's a little, it can be a little immature and childish if we need to get like the official stamp for every little thing. We have to develop some sense about what is the needed service at any given time. Maybe a senior devotee or a guru asked us to do a particular service, but we're going to do that, and then something more urgent comes from another direction from somebody else. Oh, somebody's drowning in the swimming pool. Oh, but can you come and help us? Oh no, my Gurudev told me, I asked me to bring a cup of water, so that's more important. Like we need to use some common sense, and be awake to what's the needed service at that time. And then the other question, how can we face the mind and the ego? I would just say, face the mind and the ego and get over it. I mean that, that's what happens when we're practicing, then the mind becomes more prominent actually, because the mind wants a particular food, right? The mind, the senses, they want a particular food. The ego wants its food, right? The ego demands distinction, honor, etc., attention. superiority, so, the mind has its particular attachments, addictions, whatever, so they all want a particular food, and that food is sustaining them. But when we start to withdraw from those things and not feed into them as much as they want, then they may actually give us a harder time. They start screaming out, "Hey, what about me?" What is all this humility nonsense? I need to assert myself in this situation, So there will be some withdrawal symptoms, that manifest. And these things, they can become more prominent. But these things, what will also happen is that it becomes more and more clear to us that we are distinct from these things. We will, in Sanskrit, there are these very helpful terms, deho and dehi. Deho means the body, and dehi means the embodied, the person inside the body. So as we begin to practice more and more, then these interconnecting spaces, they become more clear. We were discussing this here on the weekend. We can take just the simple example of a piece of cloth. There are all these threads here, and now this looks like one piece of cloth. It's one sheet. But actually, there are so many individual threads, right, which this is comprised of. But because they're so tightly woven together, you cannot see the distinction. So in the same way, at the present moment, our existence is comprised of different layers. There's the soul, there's the ahankar, the ego, there's the intellect, the plane of the intellect, there's the mental plane, there's the senses, and then there's this gross bodily physical world. So these are all actually different, distinct layers, but at the present moment, the separating spaces are so small, so tight that we cannot perceive. This is here and this is there. We see it all as one. Whatever comes into our head, whatever urge comes, whatever impulse, we just think this is me. Whatever feeling we have, whatever, this is me. But as we progress, then it becomes more clear. Oh, this is my mind talking. Oh, this is my intellect talking. Oh, this is my ego talking. Oh, this is my body, the urges of my body. This is separate from who the I is, who the real me is within. These are all separate things. That will become more clear to us. And of course, in the beginning, we won't be able to check these things, but just becoming more aware, that's a big step. It's like in the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, right? Everyone always says, what's the first step? That you can acknowledge that you're an alcoholic, right? That's actually a big step. Not every alcoholic can acknowledge that, can recognize that, right? So they may not be able to control that addiction at the moment, but the fact that they can raise their hand and acknowledge, yes, I have a problem, I'm an alcoholic, that's a major step forward. And as an aware of that awareness, as a result of that awareness, they will be able to move towards freedom from that addiction. So in the same way, this purity within us will develop as a result of our practice, and as a result of our shravan, kirtan, hearing and chanting, and that will enable us to become more aware. That will result in us becoming more aware of all these things that are floating around as being distinct from the true self within. We may not be able to, we may helplessly sit back and watch ourselves controlled by these impulses, we may helplessly observe that going on like a prisoner, and we may not be able to control it, but that awareness will become more and more strong within us. This is not who I am, actually. It's like I'm living in a cage. This isn't really who I am. And so it will continue like that, but as time goes by, as our awareness develops, as our spiritual strength develops, then we'll be able to overcome these things. And more, we will side on the higher plane, right? It is mentioned sometimes, this phrase, Shastra Chakshu, means the eye of Shastra, the eye of scripture. We are trying to develop that and implement that as much as possible. That in any given situation, our minds and our past experience, prejudice is giving us one reaction. But what do? In that situation? We check in. What's the version of Shastra, Guru, Vaishnav? What's their version? So let me not respond on the basis of my own version, my own concocted version. Let me try to respond on the basis of the revealed truth. My senses are pulled here. My mind is pulled here. My ego is pulled there. But I'm not going to react on that. I'm going to react according to the knowledge of the higher plane. I'm going to act on the basis of that. So more and more we will try to go in that direction. So it will be a gradual process, and of course it will be difficult. It won't be easy. It won't be a quick fix. It won't be an easy fix, but there will be a fix, and it may be gradual. It may be over many lifetimes, but if we sit back and we will see, oh, there is some improvement happening. If we can carry on, if we can stick to the path, we'll see after some time, something has happened. Some change has taken place. We will get that kind of encouragement from time to time. Does anyone else want to add anything to that? Or Govindanandini?
Yes, it is not to that, but to the first question about Buddha Yoga. That it reminded me that article. It's a little article, 2 paragraphs.
I see you
Remember
shared it here in the chat here.
Yeah. So maybe if someone here in this meeting would know who is this devotee, maybe.
Oh, who wrote this?
Who wrote this? It's nice written. I like it.
That's right. That's right. You sent it to me before.
I also used it for the glossary, the definition of Buddha Yoga from it. But
I'll just read this here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Gita commentary about how all the different forms of yoga mentioned come under the one umbrella of Buddha Yoga. And that Bhakti Yoga is the perfectional stage of the overall process of Buddha Yoga. See, now this is, one interesting point here is that actually, this, what's written there, that's generally, correct. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's actually mentioned that Buddha Yoga is actually more comprehensive than Bhakti Yoga. And he said that Buddha Yoga is closer. See, one thing we have to remember is that yoga, the word yoga in and of itself indicates something that is not at a perfected stage, right? Because the word yoga indicates a path, a discipline that is supporting our connection with divinity, right? So the very phrase itself, what I'm saying is the very phrase itself indicates something that is somewhat limited, by our own finite conditioned existence. It's referring to us in a state, it's indicating the practitioner in a stage of development. That's what I'm trying to say, not the perfected state. And so the comment of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that I'm remembering now is he was, see, Krishna, the phrase Krishna consciousness is actually so perfect. And that is a very, there's no limitation there. It's referring to a very pure state of the soul. And so what the comment of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that I'm remembering is that there's one video where he discusses this a little, and he said that Buddhi yoga is closer to the concept of Krishna consciousness than bhakti yoga. And he said that bhakti yoga is referring more to practices of devotion, particular practices that we follow in a life of devotion. And he said that Buddhi yoga was more comprehensive. Buddhi is indicating our consciousness, that inner intuition towards the Lord. And that, so it's referring more to a more natural and inherent connection with the Lord. That's what I understood. But that's kind of like going to find distinctions. But broadly speaking, what's presented in Bhagavad Gita, it's what we just heard in that phrase here that Govindjanjini shared, that Buddhi yoga, it's referring to the overall line of yoga that is described in Bhagavad Gita. And so, development of yoga. And there's also a very nice purport in our Bhagavad Gita where this is discussed. And so it's explained there that, when Buddhi yoga, we can think of Buddhi yoga as like the full expression of consciousness towards the Lord. And like this line. And when that flow of the consciousness towards the Lord is limited, is restricted by the ideals of karma, then it becomes karma yoga. And when moving along, it becomes constricted by the ideals, by the conception of jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga, then it is known by those names. But when it is fully developed, when it's in its perfected stage, then it is known as bhakti yoga. That is the general way of understanding it. So the overall system of yoga can be known in that way. And it's very nice, it's very helpful because it shows how, it demonstrates how these other forms of yoga, they are steps along the path. They're not the final, destination of yoga. So it's quite a helpful term in that sense. Like stops along the way, but not the final destination. The final stop is bhakti yoga. So that's the general concept. But then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's also given this finer distinction between bhakti yoga and Buddhi yoga. as Buddhi yoga as being actually something little further, even more than Bhakti yoga. So, yeah. I mean, that's all I can say. That's my everything in my head about that. Yeah. So I don't know. I hope that's helpful in some way. Well, should we stop there, Chinmoy Prabhu?
Thank you, Devi, for all the commentary, for all the everything. Really
Thank
wonderful.
you for engaging me and keeping me in the association of all these wonderful devotees. Okay, well, maybe we'll wrap things up for this week and look forward to next time eagerly. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Dakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Jai Chinmoy Dev Prabhu ki Jai, Jai Govinda Nandini ki Jai, Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hero, Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki Jai.
Bye.
Dev.
Bye.